dream is just 400 meters now. Months I gave to this movement. I have to just give my 100% just 12 hours to reach on the top of the world. When we are about to reach balcony, we notice that he's not well. I'm very young now. Parents are not there. I'm on such altitude where the oxygen already is very low. Brain is already behaving differently only. Decision capacity is very less. But one thought is repeatedly coming is like, no, no, he's your partner. What if something happens to him? Saving him will be the biggest thing. We have to go down. I felt very bad when I was going down, almost like crying.
Welcome to the show. Here, I speak with experts and experts at life in heartfelt conversations designed to help us pause, choose intentionality over hustle, and discover joy, meaning, and connection in our everyday lives. Really an honor. Welcome to the show. You've climbed 8,000 meter peaks. I'm sure you've had so many memorable experiences. If you could just maybe start us with a couple of your personal favorites, that would be great.
Personal favorite, actually, the journey itself is like my personal favorite because it's not only the success, but people usually say that you're very lucky to do it. I was like, no, 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 no. That's a very wrong word. But I will say that one of my favorite climbs and my first 8,000 Everest. I was very young that time. I was 20-year-old. Or I'll say blessed that I got a parent very, very supportive. I come from Maharashtra, a place called Satara. It's a small city covered with the seven hills. So seeing like the dream to climb Mount Everest and actually doing it is like there is a lot of difference. But I think that gap was filled by my parents, my mentors, my guru, and the training institutes, Himalayan Mountaineering Institute or Nehru Institute of Mountaineering. I got the confidence from that, and then I think the Everest journey was very, very special for me. Though nowadays sometimes people say, yeah, Everest is very easy. For that age, I always believe that Everest was very, very difficult for me because I was 20-year-old girl, no experience before beyond 6,200 meters. Every achievement above 6,000 meter was new for me. I still get goosebumps when I see it's not about me who want to climb Mount Everest or not my parents who want me to climb Mount Everest. It's about mountain who will allow me. Everest was one of the best part of my life because after that I got a clarity what I have to do in mountaineering before Everest. Like people used to say, will she able to make it, or maybe she will come in between from camp one, camp two. I don't think. I think the main reason is my dad because he never allowed that negative thoughts to come in my head, and he's like, no, no, no. People will say, but it's your duty to do it. So I think that kind of encouragement and supportive and positivity from my family was biggest thing. And I think for me nowadays, whenever I climb any mountain and come back to home, it's a celebration. It's like a festival.
I saw some of your interviews where, and I was seeing that when you were trying to climb Everest, your Sherpa fell ill. Would you want to talk about that? That experience was how you took that decision and what that taught you.
Sherpa, the biggest heroes, they play a huge part in our climbing. They support us tremendously. My partner was there with me for all the acclimatization, rotation, all the discussions and culture that you share, all those things. Became like a family in that 2 months. And when we reach to the South Pole, the highest pole of the world, there it's just 848 meters. Like my dream is just 848 meters. I have to just give my 100%, just 12 hours to reach on the top of the world and like 6 to 7 hours to come back, whatever my energy level. When we started climbing, after South Col, there is a balcony, there is a Hillary step, and then there is like an actual summit. When we are about to reach balcony, we notice that he's not well. Now parents are not there. I'm on such altitude where the oxygen already is very low. Brain is already like behaving like differently only because not able to take that decision capacity is like very less. I'm very young now. What to do? Dream is just 400 meters now, just 400 meters, and so many months I gave to this movement. Like to tomorrow I will reach on the top of the world. In that, those thoughts were coming in, but one thought is repeatedly coming is like, no, no, he's your partner. And I think, what if something happens to him? Like the saving him will be the biggest thing. I felt very bad when I was going down, almost like crying.
And it was just you and your Sherpa alone at that point?
We don't go in the team. we will go according to our energy. And my Sherpa will give us guidance that, okay, you have to go with your pace. You cannot compete with each other. So we were going accordingly. That day, everyone left and me and my Sherpa were there and we came back.
It sounds amazing that you were just 400 meters away and you had the sense to prioritize your Sherpa's well being
Yeah.
over this. And then what happened? You tried again?
When you get caught up in the high altitude sickness, the immediate thing you can do, you go in the lower altitude. We sent him back, and I was still there at South Col waiting for my leader, Colonel Rana. And when he came from top, he just asked me, "Tu kyun nahi aayi?" And I was like, "Sir, these things happened, and I think I deserve one chance. I know that I have already stayed 2 nights." But then he asked me one question that, "Tu kar sakti hai?" And I was like, of course I can do it. But he was telling that, see, when you feel that you're not able to do it, you have to come back. Then I was like, yes, yes, I promise that I will try my best. I will go. And when I feel that, okay, I cannot push myself too much, I will come back. But inside, I know that you don't know me, I can do it better. I will do it. I want to do it. I need one chance. And the way, I think that was one turning point on Everest.
So I'm guessing physically, mentally, you must be quite exhausted when you were trying to climb again. What was going through your mind? How were you pushing yourself to say, let me do this? What do you think was the source of your willpower or ability to push through?
Actually, now I'm just thinking you are asking me questions physically and mentally. I was not at all drained. I don't know. Maybe my body was drained, but that time I didn't realize. Maybe I was still feeling I was physically strong and mentally very strong there. And the thing which I really wanted to do because I'm just there, right? I can try. I can always imagine my parents, which they give us a lot of positivity, and they have always told me, like my aji also, my grandmother also says me that whenever you feel like that, you just start chanting Atharva Shesha, like the Ganpati Stotra. And I was just doing that. I was praying to all the gods. And I love dogs a lot. So I had one pet, Aishu. Her name is, she's Doberman, and she was like 11 years with me. Before Everest selection, she passed away. So I was like, being a kid, I was like, no, no, I don't think so. I can do anything. And she's very, very close to me. So my dad very wisely suggested me that, you want to make her feel proud, then you take her with you. You take her picture with you. So I was like, yeah, yeah, this can be a good reason. So I have her picture with me in the bag. So I think she's the constant energy, like pushing me, like, okay, let's go, like that. So I think, yeah, there's so many people. I feel it's like a blessing only. And for that only energy I can feel, and then I was like, yes, I can do it.
That's really something, because when you think about such an extreme sport as mountaineering, you probably think about crazy willpower, crazy mental, physical, strenuous work. But the way you are talking about it, you're almost making it sound like you're getting energy from so many people. And I, for one, definitely hadn't thought of it like that at all. But then again, from your TED Talks, I also see that the preparation for summit is something which is a very, very long term exercise, right? So you're preparing for 6 months, 8 months. And in fact, if you think about anything worthwhile that is there in life you want to achieve, it usually is a long term thing, right? And I feel like in our generation, it's so hard nowadays just to sort of stay on the course. What do you think helps you sort of stay on the course, do the hard work?
When I finished my Everest, when I came back, I started preparing for the next climb. So physical fitness, I have to be in the fitness level, because initially I used to prepare like 3 months, 4 months before the expedition, but now it became a lifestyle and I think discipline is the biggest thing. In If you have the disciplined life, I think you can achieve anything, literally anything. Bangalore weather is always very finicky. Sometimes it will be raining, sometimes it will be very cold, very hot sometimes. But if I have decided, okay, 5 o'clock, I have to get. If I have decided that I will not eat this particular kind of food because I'm training for my next goal, I will not do it. To get recognized for the adventure sports, it's very difficult. Now I'm planning to go for another climb. I'm still struggling to get the funds. When government gave me recognition, giving me Tenzing Norgay National Adventure Award, I thought my life will be a little bit easy, to get the fund. But I supposed to leave on 15th April. Till 5th April, I didn't have a single penny. So can you understand the level of pressure I had? Like I am preparing from like 6 to 7 months. I'm struggling. I'm approaching people on LinkedIn and different social media platforms to fund my expedition. But somehow I do it. I managed to do it. Yeah.
Any other challenges that you faced, especially being a woman besides sponsorship?
I feel that there is a mountain is not a gender bias. If the avalanche hits, it will take both men and women. Being a woman, I feel like I'm very strong, even if I'm in my periods or extreme pain, I don't have an option. I have to do it because weather window is very limited. We have only 1 or 2 days, but nowadays I can see the people whom I climb with, they are very supportive.
That's awesome. I've heard in a lot of your talks that you talk about different mountains having taught you different things. You spoke about Everest, how you had to take the decision to come back. Any other climb that sort of stand out to you for the kind of learning, its life lessons that it's taught you?
Every mountain taught me some life lessons. I will definitely want to mention about 2022 Kanchenjunga expedition. Our summit push was very long. It was around 22 hours almost. We lost our one of the team members. When we were descending from the mountain, we met that person because that person was still climbing and it was 4:30 already in the evening. We tried to convince. I know it's just 50 meters, but it might take a lot of time, and we are already climbing from many hours, and now it's mandatory to go back because now the light will start slowing down. But that person didn't listen actually, and then next morning we got the news that that person passed away.
You've done 5 peaks already. What gives you the motivation to go on? What is it that you're looking to do? You could have easily stopped.
Once we achieve something, we want to do more. Me, I always believe in growth and new experiences. And when I climbed Everest, I never wanted to stop on the Everest. I want to be a good climber. So my journey is to become a good climber. Whenever I climb, it's a little bit of experience, and I get confidence also with that. So every year, I try to climb one mountain per year. Yeah.
Is there like a age at which it becomes physically untenable to achieve or to try mountaineering?
There was a 56-year-old Indian woman who have climbed Mount Everest. Age is just, I think, number. So I think age is not the factor until and unless you are in a really good lifestyle, you work out, you're mentally fit, yeah, and you have to practice a lot, yeah.
To my mind, the kind of mental strength you need to have when you're trying to climb is probably the pretty much the maximum amount of tolerance that anybody has to sort of go through, right? In terms of mental strength. But even in regular life, I think you need to have mental strength. So if you were to give advice to people on how to go about just developing that sort of mental resilience, what would your advice be?
You should have some goal in your life, maybe a small thing you want, and you have to work for it. You have to just keep on doing those things. You will definitely feel that okay, you are getting mentally strong in that thing. You have to keep on troubleshooting, keep on working on your goal until and unless you reach to your goal. You have to work for it, and I think every time you won't get that success, right? Every time I may not get whatever I expect, but from that I won't get disheartened. I have to come back even if I feel disheartened. Okay, it's fine, I have to accept that, and again I have to work for it. My 1 or 2 climbs, say I was trying for 2 years back to back in 2014 and 15. Unfortunately, there was a once avalanche, and there was one huge earthquake. Because of these things, I was not able to climb. Told myself that okay, what is important? I'm alive. That's the important thing. Now I can work hard. I will go, definitely go again. I'll climb it. So I did it in again 2018. That's why I always believe in writing. Okay, I want to achieve this goal. I will just give you a small example. Like, I love tea a lot. I cannot, and now the winter is going on, but now I have started my preparation. So last from 1 or 2 months, I didn't have a tea. It's that's a mentally thing, right? I have decided, okay, I'll not do it, means I'll not do it. Yeah, I won't cheat to myself, and that's how I feel. Because sometimes it's very easy to make the excuses, right? But being disciplined, and if you have decided that your long term goal is this, and you have to achieve it, these small things will really help. So I always believe that okay, whatever it happens, I should be there on the track by 5 o'clock. Okay, maybe 5:15, but I should be there. and I should be doing it rather than sleeping and regretting after some period. Then it won't work like that. So I think if you want to achieve something, that disciplined life is very very important, and it's not for particular for the athletes or anything. It is, I think, for every field, right?
Another thing that I wanted to check with you is, now you've been in so many horribly difficult situations. What is your relationship with fear? Have you become fearless?
I won't say about fear, but I will say there is wisdom. I think 10 times, should I do it or not? What will be the circumstances if you do this? If nature is not allowing you, you should go or not? Always calculate what kind of risk I'm going through. That kind of little bit kind of fear, I think I have developed recent years. I feel it. But if I see my like 20, 25, 26 age, I used to be like, okay, if I fall, no problem. Now I have to jump. I have to calculate how much step I have to take. Maybe because of the age factor, maybe or responsibilities when you get it. When I am in a mountain, I take very calculated risks because yes, there are people who are waiting for me. I have to always think about them, and I also have to be think about myself as well. My
I
safety.
don't think I would call that fear. I would call that wisdom only. I think as a younger person, like you're saying, you're probably a lot more carefree,
Yeah.
and as you grow, you get a better sense of balance. Tell me, how are you balancing mountaineering with your regular life? You said you are in research. For anyone who's probably pursuing their passion, what would your advice be? How do you balance the two?
I feel to climb mountains is like a meditation for me. So 1 month is like a meditation, and I'll be charged up and full year. Now I'm working in the oncology department. But people used to tell me sports and science you can't mix together. Like, why not to try? Let's try it. So I am till now I'm balancing it because I just climb one mountain in a year, and rest of the year I engage myself in the scientific things. And I think it's all about your priorities. You have to, if you have to keep your passion alive, you have to really balance the thing, and that you only can balance. If I have to climb for a month, I take very few holidays. When there is a necessity, we go there. Saturday, Sunday, or maybe national holidays. So when I go and tell them that okay, I'm planning this expedition, then won't be any problem. And luckily, my both of the organizations where I have worked, both were supportive.
Tell me, according to you, what are the components of a fulfilled content life? What have you found? What is giving you long lasting meaning, joy?
I love trekking a lot, but with that, whatever relations I have built, like my family, I love like to see them happy and proud of my dogs.
Thanks, Priyanka. This was so good. I really had a lovely time talking to you, and hopefully we'll stay in touch as well.
Yeah,
And all the best for your future expeditions as well. Much for tuning in. I look forward to your comments and feedback. Before you go, can I ask for a favor? If you like the show, would you consider subscribing? It's an easy way to support us, and we promise to keep doing what we're doing and try and do even better. Thank you.